addition to a cyber supervisor. I assume it's a supervisor that's attending the meetings via video. I'm assuming that.
Well, first of all, not only am I opposed to it, but I've got here a legal opinion from Attorney Carol Naraki. She is the General Legal Counsel for the Wisconsin Towns Association. The question was posed to her in one of their monthly newsletters. A board member will be living in Florida for several months this winter. He would like to attend the town board meetings via speakerphone. Is this allowed? And her answer is pretty simple. The state does not appear to prohibit attendance of meetings by speakerphone, Skype, etc. However, board members do not have an inherent right to attend meetings in this fashion. Rather, the town board needs to adopt a local rule or policy as to whether attendance via speakerphone or other means should be allowed. That hasn't happened here. We have no ordinance, we have no rule, it was never voted on in open session. There is nothing that allows this. Furthermore, the League of Wisconsin Municipalities has also weighed in on this. Their take on it is that we are leaving ourselves open to huge liability by allowing this ridiculous computer screen up here and having a supervisor serve the town of Waukesha. And I don't know how you serve a town of Waukesha when you're 4 to 6 months of your year sitting in Texas. They're saying that we leave ourselves open. This is from the legal opinion from the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. Leaving ourselves open that every vote he has taken could be voided. And that perhaps we're even violating open meetings laws. Because the open meetings laws, according to an opinion from our Attorney General J.B. Van Hollen, state that the audience needs to be able to hear and see all of the board members, and that the board members need to be able to see and hear all of the audience members. Anybody that's attended any town board meetings knows that Mike Laska has often faded out of the picture. Most often...
Sorry, John. Angie?
The infamous cyber supervisor scenario, boy, I can't say that 3 times fast, has only occurred because Mr. Laska was kind enough to address John at a board meeting when he was being disruptive. And Mr. Laska asked that John be removed. And since then, John has truly focused on Mr. Laska, who has served this community in the 90s as chairman, and now serves us in his capacity. There is a rule. We can certainly pass an ordinance. It is allowed. It's not by speakerphone, it's by Skype. He sees and hears everything. We see and hear him. And I'm glad that he serves. He brings a foundation of information to the town that we would be devoid of otherwise. He has served on our fire department. He has served as town chair. He is retired and still wishes to serve. And he asked all of us before he ran if it would be okay and if we would approve it, and we said yes. So I consider that a rule and an honor for him to serve with us.
Thank you. John, 1 minute rebuttal.
Well, quite often, we have our own town clerk have to ask, what did he say? Whenever he votes. Even she can't hear him. That happens at most meetings, most votes. Mike may have served us in the past. He may have been town chairman in the past. He may have been on the fire department. Those are all wonderful things, and I applaud him for it. However, if he's not living here for 4 to 6 months of the year, he can't serve us. He should be removed from the board immediately, and if I'm elected chairman, I will not allow that to take place.
Angie, 1 minute rebuttal.
Well, you'd be breaking statutes then, John, because the statute allows for people to be in, and in fact, the GAB, the Government Accountability Board, uses this very methodology as they work with the people that are part of their group. So to simply say that you're going to decree, almost like a dictatorship, above and beyond what the statutes require, I think is a little out of hand. The local law does rule, the statutes do rule. Mr. Laska is gone 4 months of the year. He sees and hears everything. He gets things by email just like the rest of the board does. And I'd be happy to say again, Mr. Laska has the best attendance record than any of our supervisors. any of them. He attends more meetings than all of them. He attends all of the voluntary meetings as well. He's engaged, he's involved, he's an asset to the community.
The next question is for Angie to begin with. Angie, it's my understanding that the 5 Diamonds, baseball diamonds, needs to have access to the city of Waukesha's water. There's mention that the Regional Planning Commission, the executive director, Kenneth Yunker, and this is a direct quote, I'm assuming, because an area cannot be included in a final water service area without the approval of a governing body of a municipality within that the area is located within, the Regional Planning Commission cannot unilaterally include the 5 Diamonds property in the water service area. Do you believe this is a new position on strength for the town of Waukesha to prevent annexations?
It is absolutely a demonstration that the city and the town have reached a new understanding. So that understanding is that we now, with the new water service area, have a firm boundary and a protection from the degradation of the years of annexations that have happened here. It is important for us to note that the town of Waukesha cannot survive if the continuation of annexation, which will increase now that the market is looking stronger, we cannot survive if that tax base continues to be eroded from us. It was a very important 2-year deliberation for us to determine through statutes, through guidance, through the compact, as to how the water service area, which is a brand new development, water service areas are just now being developed, we're one of the first to adopt it, how it will affect development and planning. And we have been on the forefront of understanding how this law is going to be applied. And we finally have the protection we need. The document from Sewer PAC is clear, proof positive, early on in the situation of the importance of the water service area staying what the unanimous board decision was in January of this year.
Thank you, Angie. John?
Annexations have increased in the last 60 days tenfold over the 6-year average. And it's going to continue, and it's going to get worse. At what cost are we providing this border protection? We currently have levels of arsenic, molybdenum, and manganese and iron in excess of the EPA allowable limits. That's in writing. It's right here for anybody that wants to see it. There are failing septic systems in the town. No better example is than where we're sitting right now. Our septic system is shot, and it either needs to be replaced, and the chance of suitable soil, since we're in the lowlands here, is unlikely. So this very town hall will likely be hooked up to the municipal water and sewer service that the chairwoman is denying all of the rest of us, the secondary water source. Our homes are being devalued. There is no question that your home will be rendered worthless if you end up with a holding tank, composting toilet, and bottled water.
Thank you, John. Angie, 1-minute rebuttal.
I'm pretty sure most of the country who doesn't have access to municipal water, finds ways to survive without the composting toilet and bottled water scenario. The DNR has also provided where levels are of concern, reverse osmosis systems and many other options by which we can, in our own homes, filter our water in many different ways. There are people who have municipal water that refuse to drink it because of the amount of chemicals that are put in that water. So there's arguments on both sides of this. Yes, do we need to monitor our water supply? Certainly. But there is absolutely no danger of our water supply being contaminated in the ways that we're being told. And the DNR has confirmed this. Any discussion otherwise. The failing septic system at the town hall, I think we need to go through. And John, we already have an adequate soil test here at town hall, and we have a document from the county that indicates that our septic system is fine.
Thank you. John, rebuttal?
You have a report from the engineering firm that we employ that says the septic system is shot. I have the documentation that says we have levels of contamination in our aquifer that are in excess of EPA allowable limits. It is here for all to see. That is simply a fact.
John, the next question is for you. What is your opinion on developing referendum questions for town residents to vote on?
Well, there's certainly items that should be brought to a referendum. I think the one that we're discussing right now, the water service issue, would have been something that would have warranted a public referendum. It certainly would have warranted public input. There was no public hearing on the water service area and its boundaries. That was never brought to the public. We as residents never had any input on the boundaries of where this thing was going to go. This was done on a Thursday night, drawn on a map with a marker. Literally sat up here at this table, our town supervisors, and drew on a map the new boundaries. That's the type of thing that should have definitely gone to a referendum, should have definitely had some public input. The 164 bypass would be another issue. We should have some public input on that.
Thank you, John. Angie?
Well, I think this, attendance matters. There have certainly been open meetings and public sessions for all to weigh in on the water service area. And it's interesting that the referendum question didn't come up in the city of Waukesha, because they certainly are going to be much more impacted by the water service area and the choice to go to Lake Michigan than we are. No referendum there. In some cases, the referendum is a cop-out because, these are complicated issues. This has taken us 2 years to review. We certainly, at a minimum, would need to have taken those 2 years to present the case to the public so that they could make a good decision on referendum. Had we gone with our very initial meeting of public hearing, everyone said no in the room for the most part. The referendum there was resoundingly no. But we went further and investigated what our options were over the next 2 years. We have discovered many ways to protect ourselves, and we have put together a document to make sure that we're protected in the future. We just need to affect that now. Some of the actions of our supervisors who have visited the town hall or the city hall after our unanimous vote have put some of those things in question. We're working very hard to put our protections back in place and hope to do so shortly.
Thank you. John, 1 minute rebuttal.
Earlier on, when there were public hearings back in 2011, none of those public hearings, none of the input from the residents had included anything about the border and the boundaries that were going to be placed on us with the water service area. There was never any discussion about that. That was all done in some of the 71 closed session meetings. There was no public input on that whatsoever. The unanimous vote on the water service area it isn't exactly correct. Brian Fisher and Everett German voted in support of that only so that they could bring it back for reconsideration. Parliamentary rules require that if you want to bring an issue back for reconsideration, you must be on the prevailing side of the vote. They are not in favor of this new water service area, and the only reason they voted in favor of it so that they could bring it back for reconsideration at a future town board meeting. Regarding whether or not the city took a referendum on the water service area, I guess I don't care. I'm in the town.
Thank you. Angie, 1 minute rebuttal.
The water service area has been up for discussion for a very long period of time. And the fact that we are hearing now from John that 2 of our supervisors participated in meetings with us over a period of time, properly noticed, fully noticed meetings that they attended, and then sat in a public meeting like this where the public was invited to hear our discussion and never said a word that they were voting in favor because of a reconsideration. That's simply disingenuous on someone's part. There was no discussion on their part for any kind of discussion other than support. They voted in agreement.
Thank you. Angie, the next question is for you. Is the entire town of Waukesha in the water service area? And is there any way the town can prevent the city from drilling wells in the proposed area of town of Waukesha?
The map of the water service area is on the smaller easel there, so no, most of the town of Waukesha is not in the water service area. The blue areas are in the water service area, the gray areas represent the city of Waukesha, the white border area, which is the larger portion, is the town of Waukesha proper. None of the town of Waukesha proper is included in the water service area. And it's important that we understand the significance of that. It enhances the application for the water diversion. It's important that we maintain that area so that it's not used for expansion for the city for a number of different reasons. First of all, to enhance the application, and second of all, so that we don't lose our prime commercial corridor to the city, which is in their land use plan.
John?
Can you repeat that question, please?
The question is the entire town of Waukesha in the water service area? And how can you prevent the city from drilling wells in the proposed water service area?
The entire city is not in the water service area any longer. Previously, almost the entire town of the Waukesha was in the, almost in its entirety in the water service area, with the exception of a small piece of land by the Vernon Marsh. With regards to preventing the city from drilling wells on the in-town land, that's very difficult to prevent, and that's one of the reasons we should be encouraging them and helping them to get their Great Lakes diversion. As a matter of fact, the chairwoman was under the impression that the wells were at the Lathers property were capped and unusable, and that simply isn't a fact. Those wells are not abandoned. They are available to be used, and she was made aware of that with a conversation with Dan Dukniak late last month.
Thank you, John. Angie, 1 minute rebuttal.
I'm glad Mr. Dukniak keeps you so up to date on all of my conversations with him. Maybe he should have clarified the conversation a bit. There was an open flowing well on that property. They're all closed. They're not able to be used. I never said that they were abandoned, nor did I represent that the city said that they were abandoned. But we were successful in removing the permits that they had for both test and production wells on that site. And that's why there are no test and production wells on that site at this point in time. That was the very first case that we took on when we were elected in 2010. I believe that we can prevent the city from doing further drilling in the town of Waukesha, but only if we're really smart about how we move forward in the next month, 2 months, 3 months. It's critical time for the town of Waukesha.
John, rebuttal.
Simply not correct. The permits have not been removed. The wells are not abandoned. They could pump water tomorrow if they so chose. Those are the very wells that these test results came from. The test results that, again, keep in mind, our aquifer is currently contaminated with excess levels of the same stuff I've been talking about tonight: arsenic, manganese, molybdenum, and iron. And the fact is that if we don't support them in their quest for Great Lakes water diversion, and we don't have access to that water, and our wells are tested positive for in excess levels, our wells could be abandoned. That's simply a statement of fact. And the same thing goes with your septic tank. If our septic systems become fail, just like the one here at Town Hall, what are we supposed to do?
John, the next question is for you, and there are several questions related to water hookups. So the question is, what is your opinion on water hookups? Are you in favor or against them? Or would you use any, what is your opinion on a failure to water?
Could you read that again?
There's like 4 questions related to water hookup. I'm trying to combine them. It says, are you in favor or against water hookups? And what are your plans if there is a failure? And what is your reasoning for water hookups?
Picking new questions.
How about this one here? Oh, here's a good one. John, you ready for this? What is your opinion and strategy on securing the town's borders related to annexations?
Well, first of all, the city has already provided us with quite a number of protections for the border. They've showed us recently with the denial of the annexation request of the Five Diamonds Ballpark that they're not necessarily interested in annexing every piece of land that comes along. The Five Diamonds Ballpark was denied annexation just like the Walgreens Aldi site, two very prime commercial pieces of property that the city turned down in the annexation. The reason they turned them down is because the city is taking a calculator and a pen and they're looking at the cost to provide services for those areas. And the fact is that they can't fiscally, they can't provide services to those pieces of land and to where it makes sense for them to annex them and provide those services in the amount of taxes that they're going to get from them. So they're not necessarily walking around seeing which pieces of land they can grab. One of the other things that the city has done, they said, if we grab any land, we'll give you 20 years of taxes. What they're telling us is, I'm not interested in selling off parcels of the town. What they're saying is, we're going to make it even more unattractive to the city to grab that land. We'll give you 20 years of taxes. They're telling us they're not that interested in it.
Thank you, John. Angie?
Well, some of those things are true. I was at each of the hearings related to the annexations that have taken place over the last 2 years. The denial of the Five Diamonds Ballpark had nothing to do with money. It simply had to do with not wanting that bad behavior in their community, and they were quite clear about that. The Walgreens Aldi's, the Plan Commission was quite clear, we touched on that earlier, they were very concerned about what that would do to that particular neighborhood because it is part of the fabric of the neighborhood. And John, the 20 years of taxes is something that the town board negotiated as part of this water deal, which the two board members who went and visited the city administrator and Dan Dukniak after our official vote had put into play. The city has now said quite clearly since that visit that they are reneging on the 20 years of taxes, and we need to fix that particular problem, and it's unfortunate that somebody interfered with what we already had set up.
Thank you, Angie. John, rebuttal?
Well, they didn't renege on the offer still stands. The problem is that the offer only stands is if the town in its entirety reverts to the water service area that was previously in place. That's what the original offer from the city had said, and it's still in place, and they would revert back to it.
Angie, rebuttal? Oops, wait, hold on, Angie. Go ahead, Angie.
The demonstration of the desire of the city of Waukesha to have us fully in the water service area is clear. They have no intention of serving us as homeowners throughout the town. There's no physical way for them to do that. Who would pay for that infrastructure? Who would pay for the tear up and the placement of that? We couldn't afford it. What they have said is they'd be very interested in our commercial corridors. Those commercial corridors are those that we need to keep for our own support and our own tax abatement. It is not something that even with 20 years of taxes is worthwhile for us. But at the smaller service area, the city of Waukesha should honor their commitment to us because we never spoke about a specific service area when we were negotiating. This is simply a tool that you're using because they really want us in the water service area, and John does too.
The last question of the evening is Angie. Angie, if you can comment, and John, on the current status of the city of Waukesha's wells and how it impacts the town on a possible drawdown.
Move it again.
The question is, can you comment on the current status of the city of Waukesha's high-capacity wells and how it would relate to the town of Waukesha drawdowns?
Well, that's a difficult question, and I'm not answering yet, only because it doesn't talk about if those are deep water wells or if they're shallow aquifer wells. The city has both, and without knowing if it's their, I mean, there's a completely different answer to their deep wells versus their shallow wells.
And the question is not specific, I'm sorry.
Can we choose a different question, or do you want us to answer anyway?
You are
Either
just,
that, or you could give an answer to both, if
We
that.
need more time.
yeah.
Okay. well,
Do you folks mind if they just answer this last question and then we'll do closing comments? Do you mind going just a little bit over, is that okay?
Go for it.
Okay. Angie and John, if you could, Angie had indicated that the status of the city of Waukesha's wells have a differentiate between high capacity, low and levels. Would you want to comment on that first, Angie?
Sure.
And then John.
Sure, yeah, both of those. The city has deep wells and they have shallow aquifer wells. Their deep sandstone wells are contaminated with radium. And that's a concern for the EPA. They have until the year 2018 to get that settled. They have a number of different ways in which they can do it. They're choosing right now to blend it with shallow aquifer water. That's the same water that is drawn from our wells. And that's the plan in the event that they don't get Lake Michigan water. They're going to put in 27 or so shallow aquifer wells. Those are not sustainable over a long period of time because of the amount of draw. So they have a significant issue with their deep wells because those are dropping. Those can't replenish themselves. They do not have enough shallow aquifer wells in order to provide enough potable water to their citizens. So they have two issues. Those issues are going to become our issues unless they get Lake Michigan water. We need to enhance the application and allow them to get Lake Michigan water to solve the problem for our wells.
Thank you, Angie. John?
Well, we're in agreement again. We need to help them get Great Lakes diversion water. Both their deep aquifer wells and the shallow wells are being drawn down. In some cases, as much as 800 feet. The deep aquifer wells have dropped, and that is one of the reasons that they have the radium problem, is because the more water you draw out, the more concentrated the radium becomes. So that is the primary reason we need to focus on getting them their Great Lakes application diversion approved.
Thank you. Angie, any rebuttal?
No.
John, any rebuttal? Okay, a 1-minute closing statement. And since Angie began, John, if you would end the session with your 1-minute closing statement.
Well, once again, in closing, I'd like to thank you all for being here and being engaged. I believe there is a better day in front of us. We need to begin to repair the relationships with our neighboring communities. We're not North and South Korea. The folks that live, in some cases, right across the street from us, have children in the same schools. We shop at the same stores. We attend the same churches. I pledge to end the bickering, the infighting, and the dysfunction that exists here in this hall on Thursday nights. I pledge to work to secure a safe secondary source of water and sanitary services while protecting the boundaries of the town. As a new board is installed, I pledge that we follow the budget that you electors approve. We will require in-person attendance by our elected officials. We will return to transparency with open meetings. We will address the needs of the town, spending your tax dollars on roads and public safety. And we'll work towards a common goal of making the town of Waukesha the lowest tax community in the state. I'm John Marek, and I'm asking for your vote tomorrow.
Thank you, John. Angie?
It's still all about the water. It was in 2010, it is today. It is about the survival of the town of Waukesha. It is not about infighting, it is not about bickering, it is not about any of the artificial things that have come up and been created for the change of leadership here at the town of Waukesha. The town of Waukesha, for the first time in history, memorable history, if that's a word, is stood up for itself, has actually made a name for itself, has actually now put itself in a position where we are part of the community and simply not taken advantage of. And that is why this particular race has drawn such close attention. We have good relationships with our other communities. A call from Mayor Ponto is evidence of a relationship that we've developed over time. Same with the city of Waukesha. There are issues related to the water utility area or the water service area. We need to protect the town. That's what I've done.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we want to thank you all for coming. We hope you all vote tomorrow, and if you please, no matter what your affiliation is, for Angie and John, please give them a round of applause for their time.